Figuras, ¿cómo están? Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a su podcast de Play Sports Podcast. Como siempre, en esta idea de traer cosas nuevas para ustedes y que podamos expandir un poquito la mente, me topé con un buen conocido en Estados Unidos y me llamó para ver si me interesaba hacer algo con respecto a este colegio. Vamos a platicar de un colegio que se llama AVON Old Farms School. Es una preparatoria de alto nivel académico y de alto nivel futbolístico o de deportes. Este high school está enfocado 100% al student athlete, es decir, al estudiante atleta, y es de los primeros, no los primeros, el número uno de los números uno de Estados Unidos en respecto a esto. Ellos te preparan mucho para que te prepares a ir a universidad. En esta ocasión está conmigo Carl Stensland. Él está encargado del área de fútbol, soccer, de las admisiones y nos va a platicar un poquito de eso. Esta plática va a ser en inglés porque Carl habla inglés, yo hablo Spanglish, entonces si tienen una duda, recuérdenlo, síguenos en las redes sociales y nos escriban y yo con mucho gusto personalmente les voy a contestar. Sí, entonces comenzamos. Carl, after a brief introduction of yourself and the school, thank you being here with us. It's a really honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This all came about pretty quickly, so thanks for setting this up and thanks for having me.
No, perfect, Carl. So every episode of this podcast, I'm trying to give a background of the person talking to me. So can you give me a brief background of yourself, where you study, where you're from, how old are you, everything, your personal information.
Yeah, sure. I'm 33 years old. I grew up in Connecticut. Played my club soccer, my club football in Connecticut. After high school, I went and played 1 year Division I at Quinnipiac University before transferring to the Division III level and playing at Eastern Connecticut. And I graduated from there. From there, I went into coaching. You know, I really wanted to get involved in soccer coaching, so I was able to be an assistant coach at Eastern Connecticut with under my head coach, Greg DeVito, who taught me a lot about coaching and got me introduced to a lot of people. And I was there for 2 years. And then from there, I really wanted to get into teaching, coaching, advising all in one place. So a friend of mine advised me to look into boarding schools. And so I put my resume out there, applied to a few schools, and eventually I got an opportunity down in Pennsylvania at a school called Mercersburg Academy. And there I taught math and science, and I was also the head varsity soccer coach down there for 4 years and had a really great experience. We had a lot of success there. And then around 2020, I was looking to get back to New England, looking to get back to Connecticut, where a lot of my roots are. You know, my parents are still in Connecticut. My sister and her kids are still in Connecticut. So a lot of my friends are here and contacts. So Avon Old Farms came about, and they were looking for, oddly enough, a math and science teacher and a varsity soccer coach. So I was able to get the job, and I've been here ever since, and I really enjoy it. I think we play a high level of football here, and I think we do a lot in setting up our boys for success later in life.
Oh, nice. Oh, you have a good curriculum. You're young and you have a good curriculum. Congratulations, Carl.
Thank you.
So, Carl, I was in the introduction, I was telling our listeners that Avon is like a high-end school, a high school school that they have a good, very good academics and very good sports, right? Can you tell me about something, a background of Avon that we can understand as foreigners? For me, you sent me some videos. I see it. It's like, I don't know. It's like a fairy tale. The school is wow.
Yeah.
It's like living in Harry Potter or something like that. It's amazing. It's amazing. So can you give me some background of Avon? I have been studying investigation. For me, it's like, wow, I didn't know that this exists.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a lot of people's first reaction when they get introduced to the school. They go, I didn't know this existed. I didn't know these places existed. And I was a public school guy growing up. So that was my introduction to the boarding school world too. I was just
Okay.
kind of blown away that these high school students had access to such a beautiful campus and so many resources. So yeah, a lot of people say that when they get on campus, they compare it to Hogwarts and Harry Potter, and it certainly does have that feel, especially around here. We have a very unique campus. So we're an elite all boys prep school. We have roughly 400 boys here. I think this past year we had 405 boys. Most of them are boarding students. About 75% or 80% are boarding, meaning they live at the school. And a lot of the faculty as well live at the school. There's houses, there's apartments, there's apartments within the dorms that faculty live. So the faculty and the students are kind of integrated on campus into one, which again is very unique compared to a lot of other schools, especially public schools in the U.S.
And
Yeah.
and the campus is close by to a city, or is like in the woods and
A lot of these schools are in the woods. They're kind of separated. Our school is kind of the best of both worlds, I think, because we are secluded. We're on 400 acres of land, and it's pretty scenic. But we are very close to the city of Hartford, the capital city of Connecticut. So we're about 15-20 minutes from Hartford. We're an hour and a half to Boston, 2 hours to New York. So we are pretty centrally located. We're not as isolated as some of these other prep schools. So that's another, unique and really an advantage for us.
okay. So tell me if I'm wrong. The school is like preparing the high school boys to live in college, because you're telling me they are in dorms, they live there, they study
Mhm.
there, they train there. So it's like a preparation for college, right?
Exactly. That's another term that we use is we're a college prep school. So we're preparing these young men for college and of course life after college as well. But yeah, you can kind of think of it as like a mini college, like a high school college. And the school has everything that a college might have, right? Like it has really beautiful facilities. It has a dining area. It has a library, it has, laboratories, like it has it all. Everything that you might expect at a college campus, just on a smaller scale, right? It's geared towards 400 boys. So the class sizes are pretty small. There's probably 12 to 15 students in each class. So we always say in the classroom, there's no place to hide. So each student really gets a lot of attention here. They don't get unnoticed. And we also offer a lot of office hours. We call it an enrichment opportunity at night. So we have those office hours built into our class schedule as well, where students can come by and meet their teachers, talk to their teachers, ask them questions, do their homework, get maybe some little extra practice before the quiz the next day. Maybe, a soccer player comes in and wants to talk, soccer strategy for the upcoming game. That happens as well. So again, the students and the faculty, are pretty close with one another, and it's able to, we're able to develop really good relationships with all of our students. And the other, uniqueness about this is that it's all boys too. So I think a lot of our classes are geared towards boys. It's a lot of hands-on activities. We know that boys are relational learners. So, we try to make those connections, and we also try to use their strengths, right? Like we want them to get up and moving in the class. We don't want them, sitting for the entire hour. So we offer a lot of engineering classes as well, which is pretty cool. And those are obviously popular with the boys as well.
So for like a context, academically, the school, how good is ranked, or do you in the States ranks high school or don't rank high schools?
Yeah, there's all types of rankings out there. I can't really give a number for you. I know it's one of the top all boys schools. I think a lot of those lists are, co-ed that you look at. And I think we're anywhere between, the top 50, the top 30 on some of those lists. But we really pride ourselves on being the best all boys school in the United States.
No, nice, perfect. So, turning my attention to the sports, right? And soccer, basically. I understand that you have a lot of sports: basketball, American football, baseball, track and field, everything. But most of our listeners are based in soccer. So let's talk about soccer. I understand you are the head coach of the soccer team.
Yeah, correct.
How many teams do you have? You have 3 or 4 years of high school. Depends, but you have just one team, or you have different teams?
We have a lot of interest in soccer, as you might imagine. So we actually have 4 teams. So we have a varsity team. So I'm the head varsity coach. I also oversee the entire program. So we have a varsity level, we have a junior varsity level, we have a thirds and a fourths level. So there's really a level for everyone. I predominantly work with the varsity team, as you might imagine, and with the varsity team, it's a lot of guys who want to go on and play college soccer. So a lot of these athletes are recruited to come in, either domestically or internationally. And really, one of the main reasons that they come to Avon Old Farms, right, is for the soccer. And I think what we're able to give them is a high-level training environment, one that they might not find back home. And that's why they're here, for that exposure to college coaches, right? But also that high-level training environment to prepare them for what they might find in college. So our season in the fall is very similar to what they might find at the Division III or Division I level, where we have 2 matches a week. They're high-level matches, and then they're training 4 days a week as well. So 6 out of the 7 days they're busy. They're playing soccer. They're going to classes during the week. So it's very busy for them during the week. But again, it's to prepare them for what they might find at the next level.
So the season is going to be like like college, just the fall.
Yeah, exactly.
And the next months or the next seasons, what they do also.
Yeah, it's a great question. So for a lot of our athletes, they obviously they play soccer in the fall, and then in the winter, again, kind of like what they might find at college, it's a lot of like off-season workouts. It's individual trainings, it's small group trainings, it's pickup practices, and then what they might even do in the winter and spring as well is play on a club soccer team nearby to keep sharpening those skills, to keep active, and to get even more exposure potentially. So we're fortunate enough, again, to be in a really soccer predominant area where there's a lot of good club teams nearby. So we have one 15 minutes away called FSA, and they compete in the ECNL League, which is one of the higher level leagues in the United States. And then we also have a number of players that compete for Oakwood, which is about 30 minutes away. And that's with the MLS Next platform, which is what most people regard as the highest level, club level in the United States for youth soccer. So we're really lucky to be able to have those options available to our athletes, and they take advantage of that in the winter and spring, while also mixing in some strength and conditioning opportunities on campus as well.
And they can play another sports in the school besides soccer.
Totally, yeah. So we also have some athletes that in the spring they compete in track and field. We had an athlete that was a really good tennis player and soccer player, so he played tennis in the spring as well. We also have some guys that like to play basketball, so they compete in basketball in the winter, and then they do club soccer in the spring. So what we try not to do is force like one path to our players. We want them to be well-rounded. We want them to obviously be happy, and we want them to do what they want to do. So we try to do what's best for each athlete, and try to accommodate them accordingly.
Okay, perfect. So your varsity roster, how many students do you have?
It's usually around 22 to no more than 25 students on the team.
Okay, so I'm gonna plan a situation, so you can tell me what may happen. Okay, if I'm a Mexican student, I want to go to Avon. Here in Monterrey, I'm a good player, so I get listed in Avon. I pay the tuition. You have tryouts. How do you do it? Like I'm a
New to this.
newcomer, new guy.
Yeah.
You didn't look for me. I'm going to the school.
Yeah. So what we do is we have a preseason for soccer. So that starts before school. So that starts this year. It'll start August 28th, even though our first day of classes isn't until September 6th. So we have a week with the potential varsity candidates for the soccer team. So that's returning varsity members. That's a handful of returning JV members that we've identified as guys that might make the varsity team. And then it's also recruited athletes, guys that I've seen in person, guys that I've seen video of, and also guys that have gotten really good recommendations too, that maybe they reached out. Maybe, it's a situation that you're describing. They slipped through the cracks, in the admissions process, and I didn't hear about them. But they reach out over the summer and they go, hey, I love soccer. I really want to be part of the team. I've played soccer my entire life. I play at this level back home. And more often than not, I'll say, that's great. Why don't you come to the preseason and see what it's about, right? See what it's like. And that's really the tryout. That's one of our tryouts that we have. If a student misses that preseason tryout, they can also try out with the JV team as well when classes start. And what ends up happening usually is, there's a few players on JV that really surprise us, that do really well. And then what we do is we just have them train with varsity and see where they stand, right? To see if maybe the varsity level is a better environment for them than the JV. And then there's also some players that are maybe physically just not there yet, right? They're younger players. I'm thinking about like 9th, 10th graders, guys that are 13, 14 years old. And what we might do with them is have them train with varsity like once a week, and then continue to train with JV and play in junior varsity games so they get those matches. But they also get that little bit higher level environment with the varsity team as well.
Okay, perfect. Very clear. How do you work? So you compete to another prep schools, or which tournaments do you compete?
Yeah, so we're in what's called the Founders League. So our league is comprised of a lot of the most prestigious schools in Connecticut and in New England. So we have a league schedule that we play, kind of like your conference, so to speak, right? So we play everyone in our conference, and we have a winner at the end, right? Who's ever in first place wins the Founders League. And then we also play a really challenging non-conference schedule, right? Teams that are outside our league. So those are schools like Berkshire, Northfield Mount Herman, Worcester Academy, South Kent, schools that again provide a very high level soccer experience. So we pride ourselves on playing the best of the best in New England. Like we don't duck teams. We play everyone. And then some of those games too are part of showcase events. So I know we go up to Albany, for example. We go up to New York and we play in a showcase event that's the entire weekend. And we play a game on Saturday in front of hundreds of college coaches. We stay in a hotel, and then we play another game on Sunday again in front of a bunch of college coaches. So we do have events. They're called jamborees, showcases, to really market our players, to market our team to those college coaches, so they can see our players, so those players can get that exposure that they want. That's one of the reasons why they come here is because maybe, again, back home, they don't have that type of environment. They don't have that opportunity. We try to provide that as much as possible for our guys.
Nice. So talking about the exposure, can you give me like some back numbers of how many students go to college after being in Avon?
Yeah, I mean, all of our guys are going off to college. I think 100% of them are going off and they're going to college. Now, are they all playing college soccer? Not necessarily. I would say most of them end up playing college soccer. So, for instance, I think we had like 8 or 9 seniors this year. And I think 6 of them, 6 or 7, I don't know the exact number, but they're going off and playing college soccer. What ends up happening too is some guys decide to not play soccer because they want to go to a higher academic school. And that's fine. That happens all the time. So we for example, we had a student athlete here who is a post-grad, a 5th-year guy, and he had the opportunity to play at Hamilton College and Middlebury College, 2 really high-end Division III soccer schools, but he decided to go to a different school to just focus on academics. So a lot of guys get the opportunity, but they don't necessarily take it because they have other priorities, which is fine. I think that goes back to kind of our ethos is we're trying to develop high academic and high athletic performing student athletes. So we don't necessarily push guys and say, hey, you got to play college soccer. You got to play. It's not like that. Again, we want to do what's best for each student. But I will say, I would say, 90, 95% of the guys that want to play college soccer are able to find a college soccer opportunity here.
And they get scholarships, something like that?
Some do, right? So our top performing players will get scholarships at Division I schools. So we had a student athlete went off and played Merrimack College, and he was able to get a scholarship opportunity at the Division I level. But that's not the case for everyone, right? There's actually more money in academics, right, than athletics. So a lot of our guys actually get, academic money, right? And that might be at a Division III school or a Division I school, and they play college soccer there as well. So, it's really, and again, it depends. But those scholarships for just soccer are pretty rare. More often than not, guys are getting them for academics.
Okay, perfect. That's very clear. So I'm gonna try to make it easier to not the state players, but the Mexican players or even Latin American players. If I'm a Mexican player, I want to go to Avon. How is going to be the process? What I have to do? What are you expecting from me? What I can do?
Sure. Yeah. I think, first and foremost, get connected with someone from the school, either me or someone in admissions. Typically it's a combination of the two. I always like to meet and set up a Zoom and go through the presentation of our soccer program and what we can offer. And I also like to chat with the student and the parents to get to know them a little bit better, to see, what they're looking for, answer any questions that they might have, and make sure that they're going to be a good fit for our soccer team and for our school. The process in general is comprised of an interview with admissions. So a person in our admissions office will interview the student athlete. There's an application process, so kind of like you're applying to college, where you have to submit transcripts, you have to submit recommendations, and you have to complete a couple of essays as well. And that typically takes place in the fall and winter months. The deadline to apply is January 15th. And then we also encourage a lot of our families to apply for financial aid too, because obviously the cost of our school is high. We're not a cheap school, as you can imagine, based on everything I just described to you, right? It's about the price that you might pay for college. So the deadline for that is February 1st. And so after that time period, admissions gets together. They talk about each student athlete that's applied, and ultimately they make their decision, and those decisions go out March 15th. And then in the spring, families mull over those decisions, right? They think about those decisions and decide if, Avon Old Farms is the right school for them. And obviously we hope that it is. And then they would, come to school that following fall. So that's the basic timeline. And then we always encourage, our families to get to campus. Obviously, if they're international, it might be more difficult. But if they are able to, it's always great to set up a tour, see the campus, meet the students, meet the teachers. That's always good too. And that can take place either before or after that application deadline. That can really take place at any time, but ideally that's during the school year when we're in session, so they can see everyone, right? They can see classes, they can see the practices, they can meet everyone.
And Carl, do you have something in summer, or the school is just empty?
The school is empty in the summer. All the students leave for the summer. They go back home. So we're kind of shut down in the summer. But if a family, wants to visit in the summer, more often than not, there's someone around. Like, I'm usually around. I've toured families in the past in the summer. So if that's the only time they can make it work, we try to work with them, obviously.
So do you have like a summer camp over there, like soccer summer camp or something like that?
We do, actually. Yeah, we have a soccer summer camp. It's geared towards, younger kids, middle school kids for the most part, ages like 7 to 12. So they could come to that as well. That takes place in August. We also, with our team, we do a lot of like captain's practices. So the teams organize, they organize like pickup practices. So a lot of the local guys are around training, going to the weight room, things like that too. So we are shut down, but you still might see some kids around training and working on their game.
Can you explain me a little bit more, like pickup practice? What is
pickup practice? Is basically like just like a mini game, right? So they might play 6v6, 7v7. It's an informal practice, right? There's usually not a coach present. It's usually just the guys playing soccer, right? Okay. Playing 5v5 for whatever the numbers call for, and they're just out there to get touches and to have fun. And that's kind of the best part of playing soccer, right? When it's fun and it's informal like that.
Yeah. So going back to the last question, as a Mexican player, a Mexican student, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna be the only Mexican. There are all Americans. Can you talk about how many foreigners do you have, or outside the American?
Yeah, sure. It's a pretty diverse population. We want to have a diverse student body. It's really important to us. So they would not be the only Mexican student on campus. We've had a number, I don't know the exact number, but we've had a number of Mexican students here every year, probably 5 or 6. We have students from 20 different countries here, and they represent about 15% of the student population. So, around 60 or 70 students on a given year are international based. They're from Spain, they're from Mexico, maybe they're from the Caribbean. They might be we had a student athlete from Japan recently, China. They're from all over. We have a number of countries in Europe represented as well. Germany comes to mind, England comes to mind. So there are international students here, so they wouldn't be isolated. They wouldn't be the only international student on campus, which I think is important, right? It's nice to have that diversity here on campus.
Yeah, for a foreigner, it's important to have like maybe a student that can understand you what's happening with your head and in your life right now, right? So
totally.
Again, if I'm a Mexican going to the school, how the school set up the dorms? How do you arrange who's going to be your roommate?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Usually in the summer, our dean of students, the person that's in charge of all the students like residential life, will send out a form for students to answer, right? So things ranging from like, what time you want to go to bed, what time do you normally wake up, things like that, right? So that they can pair students accordingly. We don't necessarily like to group all the international students together, right? We want to integrate them with our domestic students. So there's no guarantee, or, it's usually unlikely that they would have another international student as a roommate, but it is likely that they'd have an international student like down the hall from them or across the hall from them. So about 75%, 80% of our students live in the dorm. They're typically grouped by what grade they're in. So for instance, like one of the dorms, one of the hallways might be all ninth graders, and then another hallway might be all 10th graders. And then there's a couple of dorms on campus that are only upperclassmen. So it's 11th and 12th graders. So it's predominantly grouped by age, right? So you're roomed together with guys that are similar age to you, similar grade. And then, we also, in certain circumstances, like to group soccer players together because they're going to be on the same schedule. So we have a number of soccer players when they come in, they say, hey, I'd really like to be with so-and-so, or I'd really like to be with another soccer player, so that, we're on the same schedule. And we try to accommodate them as much as possible. But again, too, we want them integrated with the entire population. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have a roommate that's a little bit different than you, maybe plays a different sport than you. It can actually be beneficial, right, to meet people outside the soccer team, to get to know people that you don't normally interact with.
Yeah, of course, of course. So you would tell me, you just told us that 70% live there, and that the other 30% are from Connecticut, or they live with the families, or a student from Mexico can arrange to live outside the facilities? How?
Yeah, so the other 20%, so we have about 20% day students, roughly like under 100 students are day students, and they live in the surrounding area with their parents.
Okay.
So that could be Avon, Simsbury, West Hartford, Hartford, within like a 30-minute radius. So those we call them our day students. So they commute to campus each day, and they're on campus pretty much the entire day. They get dropped off at 8 a.m. And they get picked up, normally at like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at night. And we call them, a lot of those kids are boarders without beds. They do everything. They have everything available to them except a bed. What's nice, I think, too, is, a lot of times they help us out with the international families. Like if they can't go home, maybe during one of the breaks, they might house them, right? So over like a Thanksgiving break, maybe it's too short of a window to go home. They could stay with them. A lot of times the day students help us out with the day student families, I should say, their parents help us out with rides to club soccer practices as well. So that transportation, getting off campus, that pressure can be alleviated by the parents and helping to accommodate those students that are boarders, and they obviously don't have cars and things like that. Our boarders are allowed to Uber places too, so it's not unheard of for a group of students to Uber off campus to go get something to eat, like at a Five Guys or a Chipotle, or even Ubering to a soccer practice nearby. That's not unheard of either.
So you have like Uber can drive you in and out.
Correct. Yeah, it's
I was
they have to
thinking
fill
like
out
I was thinking like you are outside in the woods and excluded for everybody, but Uber can drive you in and out.
Yeah, again, that's kind of like the beauty of our campus is it's secluded, right? But at the same time, nearby there's plenty to do. There's restaurants, there's things that the guys can go off campus and do.
No, perfect, perfect. So Carl, the last question that I have, can you give us like a tour from with your own words, tour of the campus? So we're gonna make editing this podcast and do like some videos with you explaining us the campus.
Yeah, sure. I'll do my best. It's tough to put into words, honestly. It's like I told you, it's a really unique campus. It's set on 400 acres. It's modeled after an old English village. So it's got this really unique architecture that you just don't see nowadays. It was built in 1927 by an
Mm.
English architect, and she really wanted to model it after an old English village, and I think she did a pretty good job of accomplishing that. So it's a beautiful campus. It's kind of perched on top of a hill, and it overlooks the town of Avon a bit in some places. The main campus sits on top of the hill, and then at the bottom of the hill, we have a lot of our playing fields. We have our soccer field, we have our football field, our baseball field. I would say our facilities are second to none. We have a great weight room, field house. Our classrooms are up to date. Our science classrooms have laboratories in the back. It's just really, even though it looks old, we actually have a lot of those new facilities, those new things that you might find in state of the art classrooms.
Nice, nice. So Carl, for me, that's the question that I had reading up. Do you want something to maybe I forget to ask you, so our listeners from Mexico or even Latin America may have this question?
Yeah, I don't know if I have another, question, but I just think Avon Old Farms is a place for, teenage boys, that want high level academics and high level athletics, and they want to prepare themselves for the next level. We're that school. We're not just going to develop you as an athlete, but also as a student, and more importantly, as a person too. We care a lot about our community here and being good men. So we have programming in place too to try to teach kids life skills and what it means to be a good man. So that's really one of our goals, is to develop boys into men. And I think we do a great job here. And I would encourage any young student athlete that's looking for a challenge, that's looking for the next step, to consider Avon Old Farms, because I really think it's a special place, and it's something that they should try to experience.
Perfect, perfect, Carl. So if one of our students or listeners want to contact you, where can I reach you?
Yeah, my email, I'll share my email with you. They can reach out via email. You have my WhatsApp info. That's always a great way to connect with international students, is via WhatsApp. And then from there we can take it from there. We can get them the information they need with admissions. We can get them on the application page. We can get them financial aid info, and I can connect with them and tell them more about the soccer experience here that we offer.
Perfect. Yeah, that's important. The financial aid, I think that is important for a student from outside America. It's very, very, very good at it.
Totally.
So, Carl, thank you a lot. It was I already study your campus, your school. For me, it's amazing. I wish that when I have 15, 16 years old, me, I I will love to be playing over there. It's amazing. It's beautiful campus and beautiful everything. I didn't know that exists in the States. So congratulations. And maybe we have a lot of questions here in the podcast. I'm gonna send it to you, trying to help them to do something, right?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I wish I wish I went to one of these schools growing up,
Yeah,
but I really believe in this school, and it's something that I'm really proud of. And I appreciate you saying all those kind words about our school. And yeah, hopefully we can get some more Mexican student athletes here. I think that'd be wonderful. And you know, if we get one from this, I think it would be a huge success. But yeah, looking forward to working with you, right? And looking forward to continuing our conversation about Avon Old Farms.
Yeah, perfect, Clara. So thank you again being here with us. Don't go away. I'm going to say the goodbyes in Spanish.
Sounds good.
Figuras, muchas gracias. Pueden ver que esta es una escuela de mucha calidad a nivel académico y nivel deportivo. Tienen apoyos económicos. Cualquier duda o comentario, mándenos un mensaje en nuestra página de internet, play.mx, en nuestras redes sociales, Play Sports Podcast y Play Sports Academy. Nos pueden mandar cualquier comentario. Yo personalmente les voy a contestar. Nos vemos en el siguiente episodio. Muchas gracias.